Hello, good afternoon. Good afternoon. Yes, we are officially 2 minutes after 12 o'clock. So yes, it is now afternoon. So good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to this lunchtime session for day 2 of Event Wellbeing Week 2021. I'm delighted to be joined by Nicolina, who's going to be doing a fantastic session entitled Know Thyself, Creating Fulfillment in Work Through Self-Knowledge. So Nicolina has, after 10 years in audiovisual engineering events, she focuses foremost on helping others to self-actualize and find meaning and fulfillment in work. So without further ado, I'm going to hand you over to the lovely Nicolina. Please take it away.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you very much for having me. Okay, I just had a quick echo. And welcome, welcome from me too. And so first of all, I have no slides. So I thought, okay, who's this session for? Is it for the people who are looking for meaning and fulfillment themselves? Or is it because you want to bring it to your team or your organization? Mostly I will focus on, let's do it for yourself first, and then we can think about if you want to bring it somewhere else. And so it can be really helpful maybe for yourself. Just have a pen and paper. You don't even have to look at me, and just let your own imagination flow and explore what it could mean for you or what you might want to adjust for yourself, because that will automatically also then give you ideas of what you might want to change somewhere else or bring to your teams, to your companies, to your industry, or whatever you do. And if you then afterwards feel like, oh, I need more inspiration on how I can bring this to more people, then, reach out, or even just sharing, these kinds of whole this event or the talk afterwards might be something you want to do, but also always feel free to reach out afterwards to me or whoever draws you in. So, and I guess it's obvious, like, why are we talking about this? Because, I mean, you could look at all the research and all the numbers about, if you're not feeling fulfilled, if you're not feeling engaged, engagement's going to go down. You're not going to be as productive. Your bottom line is going to suffer from it. We kind of know. And again, if you need stats and figures to convince someone else why is this important, let me know. I'm not going to share any with you now because I don't think it's helpful if we just look at how it affects you, because that's ultimately, of course, what it comes down to is like, just think about for a moment how it affects you. Like, do you feel fulfilled, engaged in your work? I will mostly talk about that, and meaning is kind of a part of that. And that's just, before I delve deeper into that, I mean, that's kind of how I came to that work. Helen already said it, that I used to work in something where I stumbled into because my background is actually more the performing arts, so dancing, acting, music, and all these things. And then once you know sound engineering, you're like, great, you can work in events. But actually, it was just not a good match for many, many reasons. And I will share bits and bobs while we go along, so you may just have also examples for yourself or ideas of what it could be for you. Just to start, maybe have a think what the word fulfillment means for you. So if you hear, oh, I want to feel fulfilled or more fulfillment, like, what brings that up for you? Like, why do you why do you listen to a talk like this or a session like this? Is there something that, for example, you feel you're not currently having in your work that you wish would be different, that you maybe have experienced differently, but you don't currently have? Or why is this a topic that's on your radar? Is it just because you think, oh, I increase my bottom line if I make sure everyone is more fulfilled and engaged at work? Possibly not, but maybe, but I doubt it, actually. So again, and maybe just while I talk, just take some notes, just listen to yourself and be like, okay, so what is that actually invoking in me? Like, why is that important to me? And it can be different. That's why I encourage you to do it for yourself. For me, as an example, fulfillment has a lot to do how I enjoy my work. Like, for me, it really comes very much down to joy. It might be similar for you. It might be something else. Maybe you want to feel more peaceful. I don't know, expressed at your work, whatever it is. But for me, like, it's the same, when people talk about, purpose at work. It's like, yeah, it's very important to know what you're doing and why you're doing it and where you're going with it. But purpose, for example, I find sometimes can, one of these words, it's very huge. And it's very like, if you don't have your purpose, you can't be fulfilled in work, or kind of things like, nah, not really. But if you can get to the place where you know what actually pulls you, what actually fulfills you, what fills you up from inside, I mean, that's where the word kind of comes from, what lights you up or brings you joy, you kind of maybe get a sense of, you know, the pull, like ultimately what you want to maybe can increase your awareness around or want to increase your awareness around is like, what really pulls me towards something? Where do I really feel like, oh, I really want to do this thing. I'm really enjoying doing this thing. I love giving my best to the thing. I can't wait to get up early on a Monday morning and start working on the thing. If you can get yourself to that place, you possibly, maybe you can even feel it right now. You're much more engaged, inspired, possibly more fulfilled. You automatically get all these wonderful quality that then, for example, can make work joyful. So that's why I think it's really, really important, first of all, to just find your own inner navigation system of what actually do I want? Like what kind of feelings do I want? What kind of qualities do I want? I'm going to share, you know, some other ideas of how you can increase your awareness, but sometimes just having this simple check-in at the beginning can be really, really helpful. And I think somewhere in the description I said something about mindfulness. I'm not going to talk about mindfulness, but in a way, I mean, not in and of itself, but I just think something like mindfulness, that's why it's so powerful, because yes, we know it helps with stress and resilience and all these things, but for me, the core of mindfulness is developing this ability to constantly check in and be like, okay, where am I? Like, how is this affecting me? How am I relating to this activity, to this situation, to what I'm doing, to, you know, the overall picture of where I'm going or something like that. That's kind of all I'm going to say about mindfulness, because otherwise we spent a lot of time talking about mindfulness, and that's not the purpose of this session. And you could do the same, of course, also with the word meaning. I think originally I also had the word meaning in the title, but yeah, actually, why not? Let's just go with fulfillment, because I think fulfillment is a great word. So, like, if you ultimately can get to this, like I said, more of this inner guidance of what works for you, what doesn't work for you, I would say it's a holy grail. Well, it's the first. I'm getting to the second part a bit later, which is about, okay, so once you know what you want, how to actually make it happen. But if you feel like, oh gosh, thanks, but I really don't know what to do with that. So some simple tools you can use. So one thing I really like is, for example, if you're new to this or you don't really know how to figure out what works for you or what lights you up, what brings you fulfillment, what makes you feel good. Like I said, just if that's too complex for you, just go with what feels good. I mean, ultimately, just go with that. That's why I'm always stumbling around this idea about purpose, because I know people talk about it so much. I've been on lots of courses myself. I read lots of books, and ultimately that's what I came back down to. It's like, what feels good? Let's do that. So one thing you could do, for example, is just simply have a log about your activities that you do during your day. In your work, I would actually encourage you to also do it for your whole day, maybe when you start out. So just simply be like, okay, 6:30, getting up, like dressing, whatever, breakfast, maybe going to work or doing your workout, sitting down at work, whatever it is for you. And then you go through, the things you do at work, like emails or meetings or designing something or redefining something, whatever it is. And just like you write down the activity and then you write down how engaged you actually feel in that thing. So, and it's a mix of, you look forward to the thing, but mostly before you start a new activity, just write down, okay, engagement on a scale of 1 to 10 is, this actually, I'm really looking forward to the conversation with this person. That's a 7 actually. I really don't look forward to having to file those things. Well, that's a 3 or even a 2. I really look forward to arranging that thing over there. Yeah, actually, I'm really feeling actually energized. Let's stick with engagement first. That's also a 7 or it's an 8. And then you just for a few days, maybe just see that you can track as many activities as you can, just to get a feel for where you actually do feel that engagement. And the other thing, which I already said, is you can actually do the same. I would actually for energy. So this idea comes from Bill Burnett, Design Your Life. So he actually has a whole log, and then you have like a tachometer, like a speed. What's it called? not speed dial, like the thing where you kind of measure, your speed in the car. So it's like a little half moon circle, and you have 1 to 10 or something, the numbers, and you just put a dash or something where you feel like it's the same, or you use a scale, 1 to 10, doesn't matter which way works for you, for your engagement and for your energy. And because energy, of course, can fluctuate depending on the time of the day, if you've eaten, how well you slept, what else is going on for you. But together, like especially then if you track it for a few days maybe, or even a few weeks, it can really give you a lot of like insights and ideas about, what activities, first of all, do you enjoy? And that in and of itself, I find is super important to see, okay, what feels aligned to me? Like what bits of my work do I actually like? And what bits do I not like? And then later on, we can take it to, okay, the bits I don't like, can we eliminate them? Can we delegate them? Can we remove ourselves out of the situation? Depends what it is. So do that first and foremost. If you then feel, I have that down, or I have done it before, or I know what works for me, also maybe see if, for example, you can also look at particular environments that work for you or not work for you. And like my experience was with events, that was actually very important, because the nature of my work was that I used to work in a lot of different physical places, pre-pandemic times, obviously. And even just the place could have a massive effect of how well I felt in a place, or how much I was enjoying what I was doing, or how much I felt like I could bring my whole self to my work, or I couldn't. That was sometimes because of the place itself, like the history of a place. It could be the culture of a place. People, of course, I get to that in a moment. But it can also be, simple things, like, is there a supermarket around the corner? Are they going to provide you with food? Are they making sure you're going to have a lunch break? Technicians often don't get any breaks, because when other people have a break, they don't. Little things like this that can make a huge difference if something works for you or if it doesn't, or if you feel, again, lights you up, fills you out, brings you joy, whatever it is for you. If you mostly work in the same place, or maybe you still work from home or something, it might be a little less relevant. But again, it could just be do engagement energy first. And then you can play with environment and, of course, people. Like, are there particular people you really enjoy working with? Are there people you don't enjoy working with? Teams that you like or not like? Departments that you like or not like? Actually, departments could also really give you clues where you really feel drawn to work. So for me, I think if that said it in the description, like the biggest thing was for me that I'm an introvert. That goes more into like, what's your personality? So I'm quite good with, working for myself and not always being in the limelight, but not to the extent that a technician does that. And what was for me was missing a long time was actually having more of the people interaction. Sometimes I had very, very little interaction with people other than the quick on the day, okay, that's your presentation, and kind of you never could build a relationship with them. And the moment I started to move more into, again, my example, into then you hire, duty managing, like all the things that had much more to do with the actual relationship building, client facing and all that, you could think it was more challenging because you had to be much more, on there and deal with people, especially as an introvert, but it still filled me up more because I just needed, like, that's just me. That works better for me. I have colleagues, for them, it's the opposite. That's why I said you have to find out what works for you, because it's different for everyone. But that's why, for example, having a look around, or like what else is around you, sometimes it's the first step. It's like, okay, so what does my colleague do? Let me try a little bit of that and see if I like it better or not. Okay. Yeah, and the next thing, I'm just thinking how many ideas I should give you without overwhelming you. Just pick a few. So ultimately, ideally you go away with having a few ideas that you can just implement over the next couple of days or weeks, just to explore things for you. And as I said, if you think of you want to take this further, for example, to your team or your company or something, you could start with the same thing, thinking of, raising awareness around what someone can do for themselves, or you can do it in a group or something, could be the first step. But I find like the more you know what works for you, you usually get good ideas of what you can do. And if you want to, like how far you want to bring it, if you want to bring it to the level of, okay, we really need to, work on the company culture or whatever it is. Again, like, do let me know if afterwards if that's something you want to know more about, and I'll share more about that. Oh yeah, I have another wonderful, what's the time? Yeah, let's actually move maybe a little bit more into how you create. That's one more example. The other thing is, of course, again, it's an exercise you might know, is you could also write down what an ideal workday would be for you. So you could, again, maybe even just have a list of things that you currently have, that you currently do, and then you make a list of what would be the ideal. Like, where would you ideally work? What would you ideally do? Who would you be with? When would you work? How flexible is your work? You know, all these things, like what else could be important? The money, for example, you get, and all these things. And you just have a look, you know, because again, I've done that at some point, and I had to give acknowledge that I had actually a few things in my current work that I actually worked for me, that I enjoyed, that I liked, that I wanted to keep. And I wasn't really aware of them before, because there was a lot I rejected because I was like, oh, it's not working. But then I realized that there are a few bits that I already had. And then it became like, okay, and how can I bring them forward into what I want to move into? And again, wanting to move into could mean anything from pivoting a little bit of where you are right now, simply, you know, rearranging things so they work for you. For example, making sure you have meal breaks. I'm thinking of a now colleague of mine who I think she got really into feng shui at some point, and you know, working with the energetics of making a space work for her. And so her whole thing was, you know, arranging her desk in a certain way and measuring certain distances. And I don't even know what she did. She just told me that, of course, at first her colleagues were a bit like, oh, what are you doing? And then they actually realized that she just had a great time. You know, she was really much more energized at work. She was enjoying things more. And so, you know, they were like, I think some of them got inspired. Like, they kept asking her, what do you do? And then she inspired others to try out things for them. So it could be any level, you know. So maybe it's something like that for you, where you just need to adjust small things. It might be that you might, like I said, change within your company. It might be that you have to go to another company. It might be that you start working for yourself, or maybe you are working for yourself, but, you know, you have to change within that, or you do half and half, employed, half self-employed. It depends. It depends on how big you feel like you want to change. Again, I can only suggest for now, explore where you feel drawn to. And that is then really where, yeah, it is a great word. And that's really then where we come into the second part of, okay, now you have to move into how do you actually make it happen? Because first of all, of course, you have to know where we want to go. And that's the same with everything, you know, in life and at work. We need to have that vision and that clarity of where we want to move to. And then the question is always, how do we make it happen? And I find actually in my work, I'm work a lot more almost with that side of things, because at some point, usually sooner or later, people know, like, okay, that's what I want, or that's where we want to move into. Same again, like think about company structure, like strategies, like, yeah, we want to do that. But how do you actually implement it is usually then the big, you know, where you have to do a little bit of work around. But so make sure you do know where you want to move to, because if you don't, it's going to be very hard. And then the second bit, of course, is, you know, what people often call is, what is your why? Where you reaffirm for yourself, why is that actually important to you? So yeah, it's great if you want to know, you want to express more your creative side in your work, or you want to be heard more, maybe you want to, you know, be more flexible with your working times. You want to feel like you're contributing more meaningful, whatever it is. But how does that look like? Like, no, first, like, why? So what does it give you? And that's kind of going back to how we started, this whole idea of you possibly feeling more fulfilled, you feeling more like you're enjoying your work, you're bringing more of you to it, it's uplifting your life in lots of different ways. So you possibly have a lot of ideally personal reasons, but you could also have, you know, bigger reasons that, like, you see how that can, you know, have a ripple effect on other people, or how can it uplift, you know, your team, your company, your industry, whatever it is. But just reaffirming that sometimes for ourselves can be, of course, really, really powerful, that we have this reason for wanting to go there. So we already see where we want to go, but now, like, what really drives you? Like, what is the benefit of you actually going there? And again, for me, I find most of the time is we actually want to feel better. we don't talk about it so much, especially in certain work cultures, but actually, maybe we do know more, thank you, to initiatives like this, like Event Well. But very much often at the core is we want to feel better with what we're doing. We want to have a better experience on this planet. And for at least for yourself, be clear about what it is. And when we, again, bring it up broader to bigger circles, often that's when we bring in the statistics and the numbers to be like, yeah, it really matters. And it does. But we kind of need to give it a little bit of the scientific backup. So that's the first thing. So know where you're going and be sure why you do it. And then it's classic kind of coaching, like what kind of actions can you actually do to move towards your desired outcome. And that can, again, mean a lot of different things depending on what you work on. That's where I also really would encourage you, maybe have something, hopefully have some ideas what you can do today, during this week, during the Event Well week especially. I mean, you'll hopefully get a lot of other ideas by attending other events. Just see if, just implement a few small things. Start with yourself. Definitely have 3 at least for yourself. Like we can never ever up-level anyone else. Like, well, where do I mean uplift? But it's the same idea, up-leveling, uplifting, if we can't do it for ourselves. Like the more you feel inspired by your work, the more you enjoy it, the more you feel like you really feel you express yourself, you're fulfilled, your coworkers are going to notice it and they're going to be curious, like how the heck you manage that. So you don't even have to do much. If you're lucky, they naturally will gravitate towards you. They're that kind of person. So that's why it's so important. You always have to start with yourself. And then, once you're making some progress with that, you can think about it if you do want to bring it even further. Let me see if there was anything else. Yeah, the other thing, maybe that's quite important to mention, is assertiveness and asking. That's the only other thing I would say. Once you start to moving into the action and implementing phase, is if you're not naturally good at asserting what you want, what you need, what's important to you, or asking for the things, or potentially bringing them to your coworkers or seniors or someone else who you need to involve, are you aware of that? And again, what can you do around that? And I know that's kind of a different topic, so I'm not delve deeper on it. We'll have a workshop coming up around that in October. If you want to know more, again, reach out, info@nicolinawerther.com. I think there's also another talk about confidence to speak at work, but I don't know exactly what that's about. But I just find that's a very important bit where often, the best intentions, the best ideas are kind of not going anywhere when we don't manage to get to, some actions you can just do, but for some actions, of course, we have to some extent increase our influence or influence, other people around us in the best possible way, not because we want to, put our ideas on someone else, but simply because we need to claim what works for us and we have to communicate that. And depending on, like, some work cultures are incredibly supportive. I mean, some examples I know from colleagues and friends, and I'm just like, oh my God, you do what? You sit down with your boss and meditate for 5 minutes in the morning? Like these days we find all sorts of work environments, but sometimes it can, of course, be challenging if you are kind of the first person doing it. I do find like increasingly people are getting so much more aware. It gets so much more easier. I mean, I've very rarely been in an environment where there wasn't some, for example, focus on well-being or something now. But, we're working on different levels and there's always a level more. So if something's important to you, mention it, speak it out, share about it. Like, that's why I think an event like this is so awesome. Share a session like this, post it on Slack or whatever your way of communicating is, and be like, hey, what do you think about this? Do you feel like we can do more about it? Or like, I need this. Like, I realized after listening to this that I need to, have more healthy options on the menu of, I don't know, like in I don't know if you get catering or something, depending on which department, again, you're working in, or like maybe you're working catering, but you're not getting the healthy food and only getting the clients are getting the healthy food. Mention these things, start having conversations. That's the other thing I would start to encourage you, would suggest to you. And I think, I don't know, Helen, if there are questions already coming in or something, and otherwise, of course, you have questions afterwards, time for that. But yeah, do let me know if there are any before I just keep talking.
No questions for this session. No questions for this session. So we'll do that in there. The 15-minute meet the speaker Q&A session that we've got coming up afterwards. So is that, if that's okay?
Yeah.
So amazing. Yeah.
Yeah. Let me just I'll just say like a little wrap it up.
Yep.
I mean, and then we move to that session. So just really wrapping up to what you can do. I already said do 3 things for yourself. Have a think about how you need to communicate these things. I mentioned, logging your energy, your engagement levels, potentially environment, people, having a play, what's your ideal day. I think that's enough, because otherwise I'm going to overwhelm you. And of course, reach out, info@nicolinawerther.com if you have questions, if you want resources or need like more, again, there's a scientific backing up for something or that, just drop me a line. If you want to know about any upcoming workshops or how you can work with me, just let me know and we'll get back to you. And yeah, I think that's what I really would say. Just make it a priority, make your own well-being a priority and make you feeling awesome at work and feeling fulfilled at work. Make that your priority and see what bubbles up. Sometimes it's just that, what bubbles up for you and how can you put it into your actual working days and lives. All right.
Amazing. Such a great session. Thank you so much for sharing, Nicolina, as well, and being so open there as well, and then sharing your own experiences and some really great tips. I love that fulfillment. That's one of my favorite words as well. It's really important that we kind of recognize that. And I liked what you said about just doing things that make you feel good. If something doesn't feel good, then start. If it feels, and I think that's the biggest thing, isn't it, for mental health and well-being kind of stuff. If something starts to feel uncomfortable or distressing or just painful, then you probably need to have a think about, do I need to change and take a new direction? We should all be doing things that make us feel good and safe and secure, and shouldn't we really? So yes, yeah. So some really, really great tips and lessons there to take away. Thank you so much for your time, Nicolina. Thank you very much. We're going to go into Nicolina's special Meet the Speaker 15 minutes Q&A session on our official Event World 21 Event Hub right now. That's for the people who are watching with us live. So come and join us on the Event Hub now. The link is in the comments below. You'll find that. Anybody who's watching this on demand, we will share Nicolina's contact details, so you'll be able to get in touch with her afterwards and ask any questions that you may have. Thanks so much for your time, Nicolina. And we'll see everyone at the next session at 3 o'clock.
Thank you.